Good morning and welcome to the Petiiti Pro Organic Gardening Show. I'm Cindy Petiiti and I will be your host throughout the next several weeks through the growing season. We'll be with you every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here on 95.9 The Light through October. And we will be talking about gardening issues, healthful eating, all of those kind of things. And we welcome you to ask us your questions. You can do that in a multitude of ways. You can call the store at 330-455-5997. You can email me your questions at Cindy Petiiti, that's CindyPetitti @gmail.com. Or better yet, bring your questions out to the store at 5828 Columbus Road, right on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway in Nimishillen Township. And we will answer your questions, of course, immediately. But then we will share your questions right here on the air because, you know, if you have these questions, most likely somebody else has these same questions. And so we'll share your questions here on the air and answer them so that other people can hear those answers and have their questions answered as well. So we do really appreciate you getting up with us at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And I know here it is in the beginning of April, and still we're having very cool mornings. We've had a cool season so far as we're starting into spring. It hasn't seemed a whole lot like spring this past week with snow accumulating on Monday, and then we had snow flurries throughout the week. It has been a very cool week, and it's been a very cool spring so far. The last 3 weeks that we've had some spring here, it has been very cool. So we're going to talk about a lot of those kind of things and what we should be doing in our lawns and in our gardens right now. And that's what we'll be doing throughout the season, every Saturday morning, talking about what we need to be doing in our landscapes, in our vegetable gardens, in our flower gardens, and with our lawns as well, and how we can do these things in a godly fashion, organically, so that we're not putting chemicals and corrupting and polluting the earth that God gave us. And so we're going to be going ahead and getting into all of that kind of stuff. And I like to start our show out with a word of prayer. And so if you'll just take a minute with me, and we're going to ask God's blessing over our show. Father, we just come before you right now, and we just thank you for your goodness, and we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Father, I just ask you to use our show to touch someone's life. Let them know that we care about them and that we love them and that they need you to have an abundant, fulfilled life, and that you promised us that and you gave us that by dying on the cross and rising again. And we just thank you for all that you have done for us. We thank you in advance for all that you're going to do for us. And we just give you all the praise and all the glory. Amen. Well, again, I'd like to welcome you to the show, and we are going to be talking today about what we need to be doing in the landscape and in the lawns right now. And so if you want to grab a piece of paper and a pen, or you can record this, also it will be on the website here at 95 Point Light. If you go to the website, you'll be able to go to shows and hear the show again if you need to do that. But if you want to jot some of these things down, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm going to start off with lawn fertilization. And to start that off, I also want everyone to know about a program that we are going to be doing. The Stark Soil and Water Conservation Group here in Stark County, of course, is doing a series of programming about reduction of fertilization and how it has harmed our soils. And so we are going to be sort of collaborating with them the week of Earth Week, which is not this coming week, but the following week. And on Wednesday night, the 18th, in North Lawrence, we will be doing a program on reduction of lawn fertilization, how it has hurt so much, and how we can do it more earth-friendly. And I will be going into extensively what we're going to touch on today and how to do that. So you can find that information on our Facebook page, Anthony Petiiti Garden Center. Or you can find it on Stark Soil and Water's Facebook page or on their website. So you can find out more information. It does start at 6 p.m. In North Lawrence. The address and everything is there. So For lawn fertilization, most people that do their own is very used to a 4-step program. And in that 4-step program, we think of the first application as a fertilization and a pre-emergent weed control that is going to stop weed seeds from germinating, all those annual weeds. We want to stop them from germinating. And then we think about our second application as a weed and feed oftentimes. Third application is usually a fertilization, and our fourth application is usually a fall fertilization and sometimes a pre-emergent weed control. So organically, it's very, very similar to that. And you can do it organically and without harming the earth, without fertilizers that are salt-based or petroleum-based. So what we're going to recommend is you start off with your first application with corn gluten meal. And corn gluten meal is a product that comes from corn. And the great thing is it does stop weed seed from germinating. So this corn gluten meal that you're going to be putting down is your pre-emergent weed control, but it's also high in nitrogen. So it's going to put nitrogen into the soil and help green up your lawn. So this is going to be that first application that you're doing. And what you're going to want to do is the time that you're putting down a pre-emergent is always critical, because even if you were using a chemical pre-emergent, the residual in the soil isn't real long. So you want it to be touching the surface of the soil, not leaf tissue, because what the corn gluten meal is doing is actually stopping that seed that's in the ground from germinating. So you really want to watch. You don't want to get it down too early, where it's washed away before the seed is ready to germinate. So you don't want to get it down too early, but you don't want to wait too late either. So the peak time for a good rule of thumb to follow to when you want to put down your pre-emergent weed control is when the forsythia are blooming. And forsythia is a shrub that blooms a bright yellow flower in the spring. And when the forsythia is just ready to crack open, you can see the yellow, but it's not in full bloom. That is usually when the soil temperatures are warm enough that the weed seeds are going to start germinating, and you want to put down your corn gluten meal at that time. It's a good rule of thumb to even follow if you're using a chemical pre-emergent weed control, but especially your organic weed control. This is when you're going to want to get it down. Again, like I said, the corn gluten meal is also a high nitrogen fertilizer, so it's going to help start greening your grass up at that time. It doesn't have phosphorus in it, so it's not going to make it grow real fast. The grass already grows quick enough in the springtime, but it's going to help you green up, and it's going to stop all those weed seeds from germinating. Then your second application is usually going to be sometime late May, beginning of June. And what we're going to recommend organically is the Milorganite fertilizer. Milorganite has been around for 40 plus years. It is a great organic fertilizer. And because of it being organic, even if it's dry, you're not going to have to worry about burning. So you want to go ahead and put down your Milorganite fertilizer. Now, this step in the chemical realm is a weed and feed, so it also kills broadleaf weeds. At that time, you usually put that application on in the mornings when the leaves are wet, so it sticks to them, and then the chemical helps kill off that weed. Milorganite is only a fertilizer, and organically we don't have like a weed and feed, so this would be a more of a two-step process for your second application. And so what you're going to do is put down your Milorganite fertilizer. You can do it at any time. And then later in the day, when we're having a nice sunny day, you would put down Bonide's Weed Beater FE. The Weed Beater FE is a broadleaf weed control, safe for the grass, won't kill them, but it's going to kill all those broadleaf weeds. The perennial ones that are already up and has been growing and living throughout the winter, and now they're growing very well. The annual weeds, hopefully if you got your corn gluten meal down at the right time, you won't have any of those weeds because you had stopped them from germinating. But those perennial weeds that you have in, the Weed Beater FE is going to completely control that for you. Now, remember, it is an organic product, and even in a chemical product, a lot of times you'll need 2 applications. So don't fret. You probably will need 2 applications. And if you're fighting a really tough weed like ground ivy, the other name for it is creeping Charlie, the wild violets, some of those have an extensive root system, and so killing them off is going to be more difficult. The thing is that you have to really watch is, or remember, in an organic product, there isn't a residual, there's not a pre-emergent weed control in it like there is in several of the chemical weed controls that's safe for the grass, but not for the weeds. It will kill them. So it's going to take a couple applications because what you're doing, you're killing off that flesh tissue, that herbaceous tissue, but you're not killing off the whole root. So it is going to come back, and you usually will need to do it 2, sometimes 3 times to cut off the photosynthesis enough going to the leaf that was feeding the root so that the root dies. And the root will eventually die because there's no photosynthesis going on in the leaf tissue, and then there's nothing feeding the root, and so it will die. But like I said, don't be upset. It is probably going to take 2 to 3 applications. Then your third application is going to be an additional milorganite fertilization plan. And that's going to usually be around the late August time is when you're going to want to put that down, even the 1st of September. That's going to keep things going and growing into the fall. Those temperatures are cooler. Hopefully we have some nice growth. Now, at this time is when a lot of times you'll notice if you have grub issues. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, that's when you're going to need to make a decision if you're going to put something down for the grubs, unless you do it actually right now. If you have had grubs in the past, this is the ideal time. Spring is the ideal time to get your grub control down because of the organic variety that we're talking about is Milky Spore. And Milky Spore is a product that you will find amazing because you put it down once and you will not do it again for a minimum of 10 years, guaranteed by the St. Gabriel's Company to work for 10 years, and that's even if you are fertilizing chemically. If you're fertilizing organically, you are not going to need to do that for probably close to 15 years, which is a wonderful thing. Milky Spore is a fabulous product. So if you have had grubs in the past, you're going to want to put that down this spring, and that's going to take care of that. And then when you're doing that third application of fertilization, you're not going to have to worry about it. We are going to take a quick break right now to hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back. Thanks so much.